Enzo. I'm just going to be leading this little conversation. And so maybe you all want to start by introducing yourselves to the audience. Yes, we'll go around.
Hello, everyone. I'm Magaly Colimon-Christopher. I'm the playwright and producer this evening.
Hi, my name is Aixa Kendrick, and I'm the director for this magnificent work.
Yeah. Bonsoir tout le monde. My name is Oja Vincent. I'm the sound designer for tonight.
Okay, I'm going to start off with this. My beautiful cousin Magaly is in the audience. He's related to us. Vincent, Stefan, Alexis.
Yeah.
Okay.
That is, oh my gosh. So we discovered that we're related when we were talking about, and we were just talking about, what's your family name? Because that's what we do in Haiti. What's your family name? We're related. So that's we discovered that. Doesn't he look like my cousin, Jacques-Antoine? Crazy. Okay, I'm done. I just had to put that out there.
So I have a couple of questions for you all, and I want to start with all of you with this. So in approaching the piece, how did the conflict of the Haitian versus American values correlate with your own lived experience, and what was that like to negotiate that within the context of the play in terms of writing it from your brain and directing it, and also definitely coming into the sound design aspects of it?
I don't understand. What do you mean by the conflicts between Haitian and American?
The Grace is has this back and forth moment between if I fight for someone, am I fighting for Haiti? Am I fighting for America? I was born in America, but I grew up in Haiti. So what was that like to negotiate that?
Yeah. So as a writer,
yeah.
The thing about being of a heritage that's not 5 generations American is that there's a relationship with the homeland, the motherland, right? And depending on which nation you're from, the way that American politics impacts the motherland creates this dynamic of confliction, right? You're conflicted. I love where I live. I love my lifestyle. I love my identity. But if I love this identity, is it a conflict with that other identity, right? And in terms of writing it, it wasn't so much a story about the conflict between my parents' motherland and this land, but it was a conflict of not belonging where you call home, right? And when you are someone of the African diaspora, the moment you walk into space, they try to identify you as something that is not specific to you, but that is general, that fits their, definition of human being. And so when you also have a heritage, a background of a clear awareness of your heritage, and you're proud of that, and yet you're being told you shouldn't be proud of being a human being because you're of the African diaspora, it becomes a conflict of, I love this country, but I don't love how they treat me. So I don't think it's simply a Haitian American conversation. It's anyone that is being told that you're less than in the land that you call home, right? And so that exploration of how do you survive in the world is one of the themes that I'm delving into. How do we thrive, not just survive? How do we not fall victim to that messaging? Because we're all hearing messages left and right, right? If you're not this size, there's something wrong with you. If you're not this, we're all being impacted. But how do you thrive? And so how do you thrive is by my answer that I hope that the audience gets is know thyself and truly love thyself. And if you identify yourself by your heritage, then really love that. And as a Haitian American, I love my heritage. I'm enamored deeply
Yeah.
with my heritage. And I want to inspire everyone to love their heritage. You can love this nation, but still love what makes you unique. There's nothing wrong with that. So I hope that answers your question from the playwright's viewpoint.
Well, I think you touched on a key thing, and I think that's something that we were just talking about backstage, and we were doing that often. This is an Ngusi, I'm gonna shout you out. You had just mentioned again the hero's journey, and the journey of the human part, as in how it connects us culturally. And so you were talking about the Haitian American. I'm coming from Afro, Puerto Rican, American. So, I mean, and
Complex.
it's complex. And even if I said I'm Afro Puerto Rican or I'm Puerto Rican to somebody who's Hispanic, my mother is my color. And so there's an assumption of even that, of like, oh, you can't be Puerto Rican because,
How?
yeah, and it's like, yeah, but that's why it's called the rich port. Because the Africans were brought over to work. You know, so you know, that dynamic and the question of how one has courage, and it takes, and the thing is, you won't know that that's what you want or need until you feel the schism. I think the schism is the gift. So because that's a breaking open for an opportunity for something different. And so, but I felt that early, going, why do people treat this? And just out observing that, as well as, my mother, she's fluent in Spanish, and like, what's the difference? Oh, but you're not really black. Well, you don't talk black. You know, and I got that from people, you know, the kids who look just like me. And I'm just like, well, wait a minute. What is talking black? Well, what is being black? What is that? I don't understand that. And they're like, oh, okay, but anybody who's not black is like, oh, you're definitely black. So, okay, what's that? And what does that mean? What does any of that mean? You know, and so that dynamic, you know, those questions of, but how do you define your culture? What are the things that what is going to gravitate? What is the things that hold you? What are the things that define you? What are the things that are going to nourish you versus create chosen schisms? So you have to choose, you know? And that, again, the whole thing of mama nini, you know, you're biting yourself at some point. So yes, there's social things that will bite at you to either control you, to minimize you, to to have you buy more things, to change you, you know, whatever that is. But at some point, you have to trust that your own, once you question, you know, I love that quote people talked about, and Albert Einstein said the same thing, you know, when you question, the question is a whispering from God. So, you know, people say, oh, why you ask so many questions? You're seeking truth in something. So you something in your God self is seeking an answer. And so trust that. And trust, you know, challenging, questioning, and biting back, but biting things that no longer are nourishing to you. So for me, my Puerto Rican culture, my African Puerto Rican culture, my Taino Puerto Rican culture, my Alabama father African American culture, and the African culture, and the African diaspora culture, because, you know, there's also Brazilian, there's a whole bunch of other stuff mixed up in our family line. So Cuban, you know, it's everywhere. We're a blend. And so navigating that is more about, I find that Grace's answer when he says, what are you? And she says, human? you know, I think sometimes it's interesting to just start from that place.
It's an honest place.
It's an honest place, and then all of like the album, all of what they bring to this to the space, good, bad, and different, in your family line, in your DNA, you get to read, understand, absorb, walk in, dress in, take in all that stuff, shine, and know that you're not just one thing. Oh, what's your sign? I'm a Scorpio. I'm a this. Yeah, but there's also you're 12. There's 12 signs in each chart. So it doesn't mean you're just one thing. So again, you know, how does the human mind, the human ego, elevate itself? So it go beyond what people tell you.
Yeah.
Go beyond. Trust that you're here for, you know, the larger journey.
I say, yeah, sound-wise, and it's just really about tension. You know, I've worked with Aixa a lot, with a lot of different artists for different sound installations and plays and things. But in meeting with Magaly and Aixa, it was about conveying this almost suffocating environment of negotiation of identity, right? So wow, it's a wild ride being a Haitian American first generation. I can say directly that my specific life experience is always to let people know I'm Haitian, because they assume I'm Puerto Rican or Dominican, worse. Right? But you know, to open the dialogue, it's important to let people know, because the Haitian Revolution really renegotiated identity in general, right? So when things are brought up in the play, such as, you know, from the U.S. side, from Lot Bois, you know, we learn about Haiti, we learn about Toussaint, you know. So a lot of Americans think Toussaint Louverture is the father of Haiti, right? And we would never pit them against each other, because of course Toussaint opened the door, Louverture, but Dessalines is our father. And so for that to be even mentioned in this play is giving people a foundation, right? It's like Aixa was just saying, the foundation of human first. I mean, this is what the revolution was really about. You know, the misnomer of Haiti being a slave revolution is an oxymoron. The minute you stop being enslaved in your mind to conduct a revolution, you can be involved in a revolution, but you can't have a slave revolution. A slave doesn't conduct revolution, you know? So you know, yeah, you can't have a slave revolution because the slave does not conduct the revolution, right? Enslavement is a condition, right? And we're entering this consciousness now, and I think that this play is a very important part of renegotiating identity, renegotiating his story, right? And finding our story. So the sound is really meant to convey, a lot of times it's a haunting of the present reality. We're taking you into negotiated dimensional spaces. But that tension of, you know, for myself, coming from parents, I had a grandmother assassinated on my mother's side and a grandfather assassinated on my father's side. So these moments of Fort Demarche in the character's consciousness, this is my child consciousness as well. You know, thinking about my grandfather locked up somewhere, dreaming about going and rescuing my grandfather over and over again. You know, and all the wild stories from it being, oh, it was the Nazis who gave the Douaye power to, you know, what we know was the actual facts of the matter around the 1915 occupation and what have you. So all of these kind of convoluted mythologies you heard in the play, as a 12-year-olds were making fun of the character. And we all grew up with this stuff, HBO and, you know, the mythology of the origin of AIDS and all the different ways that they have tried to make Haiti till today pay for the heroic deeds of our fathers, right? And mothers, 50% women fighting force, as you know. So again, the mentioning of people like Cecile Fatima and different folks is key. And the tension kind of loans to the presentation as a stage itself. It's a character itself to keep one inside of the feeling that we have in negotiating our own identities.
Yeah, thank y'all for that. I have a question for the director. In approaching this work, which gives like very much like Afro-Caribbean neo-futurism, I was reading it and I was like, where are we going? Time, space, continuum, yeah, okay. How is it to approach this like work that exists somewhere but in between, but not really, but yes.
Whoa.
I know, right?
Honestly, I was just like, wee. Yeah, usually I do a lot of kind of like multimedia anything. And usually I'm completely thrilled by anything that deals with multidimensional, time folding, ancestral, primordial, cosmic dynamics, only because, I think, outside of, just the spiritual, I would think the spiritualness and the culturalness of my mother's side, of the African Puerto Rican side, and you've got, the Bomba y Plena and the Luisa side, and all of that kind of stuff going on. Then there's my dad, who was an aerospace engineer, and I was just constantly amazed. Yeah, I know, from Huntsville, Alabama, go figure. He was like genius. And so, I'm just like, wow, I was always cosmically fascinated about the world of the outside. My mother was more about the world of the inside and the things that are intangible. And so both things are just, how do you, and I'm always fascinated about this construct called this human, or even the world, or even life, because I'm like, the hell is this? What's going on?
What's going on?
Like, we're awake, and then we sleep, and then what is that? And then, well, why are we sleeping?
Yeah.
It's like, was that real?
Yeah.
Am I now sleeping? What's going on? And then this whole thing of, also the traditions, like from, the Australian, the Aborigines, and dreamscape, dream space. How do you navigate when, these portals, that are, people can't explain what they are, and yet they're real. So again, I delight in, well, how can we explore that? What is the beginning, middle, and ends of that little dynamic? And so an opportunity, and this is just a reading. I mean, this is a reading. So we brought a few toys, gifted by Oja, and this phenomenal, talented cast. So their portals too, with their own inner realm and their own talented, and Cassandra and Jenna, phenomenal stage manager. So I mean, it's just those portals, those entryways, and Magaly's text, and just the vision she has. I think it's wonderful. I think life is never, like my conversation and my answer, it's not linear. It's kind of like tangential, and then it went like that, and then you find your way somewhere, and you're like,
For sure. And for you, I would love to know what your experience was like in terms of like the sound and the.
Oh man, I was excited. I mean, I do this for. I've done it for like Tongan artists and just last guy from St. Croix. But to bring it home, it's just like, oh wait, I got some recordings from Payan, from whatever 2015 Rah Rah Festival. I can't wait to go back into the drive, and at the same time I was sort of limited because I just got done moving from the West Coast back to the East Coast, and so I don't have like access to my 3,000 LPs or whatever.
He's not joking, everybody. Everybody thinks he's joking.
My lab is a little limited, but
CDs?
No,
LPs,
LPs, yeah.
like record.
Oh, record. Oh.
Yeah.
Am I my age?
Vinyl?
Yeah,
Vinyl.
But you know, I mean, it was amazing to kind of go down the rabbit hole. Each time I do this, it's really like a tailor, right? So to talk to somebody and then to try to immerse yourself as deeply as you can, almost like a method actor, right? It's like I'm not doing anything but kind of paying attention to these textures and sounds and deep into the frequencies. You know, I kind of lived there already, so this was a beautiful thing to be able to share some of that with folks. And as it unfolds and develops, it's just going to get better and more kind of interactive to bring folks into the mental and emotional spaces. Yeah, it's an honor, really. I feel like we are doing the continuation of the work, because in the Haitian Revolution, which continues, right, is knowing, right, Haiti being the first point of impact for the invasion, right, 1492, knowing that Native people were resisting first and returning the name to Native people in solidarity is a depth of solidarity we need right now with what's happening in Gaza. You know, we need right now with what's happening with the re-invasion of Haiti right now, right? We need to remember our ancestors in that way. So any bell, any bucket of cold water you can get thrown on you is an honor to be involved with. Adding some droplets to, or whatever you want to call it. So it's I was absolutely enthused, and, you know, met family.
And you know, this was a very collaborative, you know, journey. You know, that this has to be collaborative, because it's a story that's bigger than one person. And I've known Aixa for a minute, and when she was talking with me about the script, I'm like, you're gonna direct this because you get it. You know, either you get it or you don't. And I really feel, like I said, blessed, because this was a gift from the ancestors.
Speaking of ancestors, thank you for that. Thank you. That was my next question for you.
Okay.
Where were you when the ancestors touched you and gave you the gift of this play? Where were you when it struck?
I guess where it had it to be. I mean, it's been a work in progress in my mind in very different ways. I've been calling for it. For a while. I tend to love exploring what the spirits are saying in my work. If you see any of my work, there's always a spirit being somewhere in there, or, you know, some memory of another ancestor impacting the here and now. I don't think this is all that matters. I think we're the byproduct of all this DNA floating in us. And it's not just a cellular level, it's a spiritual level, right? And so when do you open yourself up to those voices? And I'm constantly looking to get clarity, right? And conversation of what it means to be an immigrant doesn't stop after first generation. It doesn't stop after second generation. It doesn't stop after third generation. And so when I keep on hearing all these immigrant stories, I'm like, we have so much in common. What is that commonality? And it's the depth of heritage, right? That we need to tell stories about. So it's not just the here and now, it's all of it. So, yeah, I'm always asking. And it just really feels like we really need to listen to them right now. There's so much pain in the world and we're not fixing it.
Serious.
For sure.
So we've got to stop using muscles and open up our hearts, you know. But we need to open it up to the audience because we don't want to keep them. We could talk forever.
Yeah,
I'm
we can.
talking.
Okay. Hi, audience. Thank you for staying with us. Again, for the audience. Let's take questions if anyone has questions. Some of the cast is trying to run away, but I'm sure they'll answer questions if you ask them. We see you. So if anyone has a question, just wave because I can't see with the light. If not, I'll ask more questions.
Okay.
Ask a general.
Is there a hand
That
there?
is one.
Yeah.
Oh, yep, sorry. Yes.
What's the future for this? This was a reading and it was a wonderful experience, very spiritual, dramatic. Will this turn into a full-length play?
It is a full-length play.
Yes, this.
And so I'm raising funds. I'm applying for grants, and actually at the very beginning I encourage people to go to my website, Conchal Productions, which you can find by taking the QR code that you got when you entered, and if you didn't get one, there's some over there on that chair. You can go to my website and then find access to my company, Conchal Productions, and the goal is for us, I'm applying for grants with my team to get funding to fully develop it. You know, and it's a multimedia piece. So you heard the projections, sound, movement. It's gonna be magic.
It's gonna be good.
So you need money for magic. So that's the future, raising the funds and for continuing the development process. You know, because I'm applying for a development grant. I want to develop the movement. So you know, I want to further develop the sound and put some of it. So you know, it'll stay in the reading stage until you get enough money to fully develop it. But my goal is to get it on stage by 2025. So
Nice.
I like sticking to goals. So
And she
My
does.
success to you. It was
Thank you.
wonderful tonight.
Thank
It
Thank
really
you.
was.
Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions? Please don't be shy. Yes.
Just a comment. Thank you, Magaly.
Thank you, Maddie.
Thank you for putting this here. I think it's timely because of the context in which we're living, both in here and here, but also looking at the youth, the generation of the future, the conflicts that they're living. Belonging and apartments bring peace, and our youth are not at peace.
No, they're not at peace.
So that my sense is that this play need to travel to the people who needs to understand their own emotions. Why? Give them purpose. We're losing the Haitian youth. Just because you're second generation, you do not lose who you are. And when you lose it, you are no more. And that needs to be carried. It's such an important message for the generation of Haitians born here. Because the schism that we talk about with dichotomy of perception of who you are trying to please yourself in a conflicting society as a person of color, as a woman, as a Haitian living here. So many of us want to deny who we are because of the pain of what they experience. And so I really hope that we can go forward with this play to bring it from the road to Europe, come out, so that they can have this experience and feel free enough to get in touch with the speaker.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I thought it was very powerful. I especially liked the relationship/conflict between the mother and the daughter. I thought that was relatable across the cultural divide. All right. My question is, will there be another reading, or is this the first reading and then you want to go from reading to play? And the reason I'm asking the question is because I think that in this current, the way that you did it tonight was very powerful. And I would love to see it again like this with maybe just a bit of simple, PowerPoint-like kind of projections and a little bit more music. before it becomes the big thing, because there's something about the way that you did it tonight that forced me to focus on the themes. And I think the more you add, and I think whatever you're going to add is going to be fabulous, but the more you add, the more there is to, I don't want to use the word distract because that's the wrong word, but the more there is to engage outside of some of the very powerful messages that you can see when it's stripped down. So my question is, what comes after, is what comes between this and the big thing?
Well, the steps to the big thing is further development, right? So it's more readings, but with more things thrown in to explore. If you really look at the budget to do projections, it's not cheap, right? So you work on what you can afford to do, which is movement and sound and further exploring the use of space. And that's, I love that comment. I will really, because Laramie Project is a piece with people reading from the script with things thrown in so that people can focus on the script. Vagina Monologues, it's always readings and just focusing on the message. So that, endless possibilities, right? Literally, you could have movement in the space and stick to actors reading the script, and the movement happened from other spirit beings being overcome. There's no end to where you could go with it, right? And so this is the very first public reading, and most projects go through multiple readings, and I've submitted it for different festivals to be read. So, because in that process, that's where you start building the stuff of it, right? So who knows? It's all about the ching ching, But you got, if you keep on raising the money to build, then the work gets out, right? The story gets told in the process. It's not hidden in a corner.
So I'm going to. You're asking if we have questions, I'm going to throw a question back at you.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, I wonder if you have any questions of us. What do you need to know from your audience as you move forward with your piece?
What themes popped out at you? Was there anything unclear to you? Did you feel connected to the human story, or did you feel, I don't know this culture and therefore the human story was challenging? That's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot of questions.
They're intelligent.
So, what popped out at me in particular was the relationship between Grace and her parents, and the disconnect in the relationship between Grace and her parents. And also the idea that we are all on a journey trying to find who we are so that we can be our fully realized selves. Those were the themes that were most important for me. I'll just tell a quick story. I was at an event where self-help type of thing, a lot of people, and the moderator said, everyone here who's like 17 to 21, stand up. And so all these young kids stood up, and and she said, look, these are your parents. And so a lot of us are a product of the mistakes that a 20-year-old made because they were a very young parent. And so I think we're all, as you mentioned, dealing with some form of dysfunction because all of our parents were still young. If you're old enough to have children, you're still a young person yourselves. So I really wanted to see that theme amplified. I am not a Haitian American, I'm not Haitian, but I got a lot of Haitian friends. And so I felt a certain connection, but I also felt, not that it was inside baseball, but I did feel like it was a little bit not for me in some places. And I think that came out of a lot of storytelling when I might have benefited from more action. more show don't tell. Let's see that relationship. So that,
Thank you.
my response.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Any others? Jump right in. No.
I'll try it again. Because I am from a little bit of a different generation growing up, the whole history of Haiti under Papa Dr. Duvalier, it was in the news when I was young. And I'm wondering, when you present this and you're presenting it to people of a younger generation who did not grow up with the history of Haiti, and some of which you were touching on in this play, would some of your hopes and dreams for it to expand that a little with video or not?
It's a great question. To be taking into consideration, right? Because there's a segment when she opens up an album, right? And that's the images of the nation, and so implying that all the stories of the nation, that's your story, even if you don't recognize it. And funny quip, I learned that a distant relative was the wife of the young Duvalier.
Oh, wow.
I have been judging her for years. So I'm like, yo, that's deep. You know what I mean? And so, not that I relate myself, but it's very distant. Very, 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 very distant. But to think that I could judge from it's like you're a horrible person, but if you look at the lineage, I'm connected to you. So.
You're not so bad.
No, not that she's not so bad, but it's like recognize that when the album does open up, there's no limit to the images that could be there, because we don't know all the connections, right? Until you do a deep genealogical tell the story dive, and there are so many men who had children with women and disappeared, so who knows who you're related to, right? And those stories are hidden, right? Or men who had multiple women and cared for all of them at the same time, many harems. And you don't know that man was related to you, because it's like, it's a small island. You think it's huge because, it's considered there are millions of people, but it's like there's more people in New York City. So, endless possibilities with that. I love that question. Thank you. Thank you. Food for thought. Yes.
I would just echo what you said, because I like the idea of video, because in truth, I always ask that question. As far as the big picture, to echo what you said, the best way to travel with a message is video, streaming in this day and age.
Yeah, film.
Plays, films.
Yeah.
I like films. Plays I'll go to if my wife asks me to. But if I'm given the choice, film, you get comfortable and do as many as we want and talk about it. So the film idea, I think, would not only give you perspective on what you said that was, makes sense for video, not only fill in the gap where you heard French and didn't know what they were saying. I still don't know what they're saying. So. But at least if it was a film, you will see things, and then you can kind of relate or rewind, whatever. And then, of course, you get the message out. So.
Yeah. Theater, they do that a lot. They
that's a new thing.
Yeah, I've heard that.
That's a new thing.
I saw something about that.
Yeah, they do that now.
It's so important to take care. It's so important too in terms of the dialogue and the dialectic, because culturally, Haitians will talk about revolutionary times like it was yesterday. And have an opinion. You know what I mean? All of this kind of like U.S. apolitical, not so much anymore, but we're getting less apolitical as a nation, I would say. But I dare say 15 years ago, asking people in the United States political opinions, I don't do politics, right? In South America in general was just not what the cloth would cut out of, right? And that started with Haiti. So it's important you know, to have the reference of the Duvalier regime, dictatorship. There's a lot of debate in Haiti. You know, you go to certain areas and people are like, we had electricity all the time during Duvalier and yada yada. You know, families like mine.
It was safe.
You know,
be there.
Families like mine is like disappearances and you know, killings, rapes, and all the rest of it. It's a little bit of a different. You know, tell my mom, Papa Doc, he's not Papa anything. You know, I mean, it's not happening. So I mean, there's this tension. There's always this tension. In my observation too, and experience, there's always a both and thing about Haiti, right? It's like we used to say that you can't have, by physics, you can't have two objects in the same space at the same time. Now with string theory, we know that not only can you, but it's always like that. So in Haiti, it's as if that's always been known, is that you can have all of this in the same spot, in the same time, at the same moment, in the same place, happening. It could seem like total chaos, but somehow it's in order. You know, before there was a turnstile in the Port-au-Prince airport, it's just like, you just gotta grab your bag or whatever, but no bag is stolen. Nothing's missing. Everybody gets where they're going somehow, right? So it's important for people to have that reference that are unfamiliar with the culture, because it gets confusing when you come from outside that. But I feel like that's part of our deep strength, is that we know how you can have simultaneous circumstances, simultaneous vibes, you know, all of this thing in the same spot. Somehow it all works out. Ancestors is a big part of that, right? But for people to understand that, yes, you do need some imagery, some newsreel, maybe, you know, background for somebody to start having a conversation, because then that becomes a heated conversation. And therein you have the culture, right? I used to come downstairs at a Haitian party with my parents, and without understanding Creole, thinking that people are about to fight. You know what I mean? And then suddenly everybody breaks out laughing. It was just a joke. They're telling a joke, you know what I mean? So to understand, you gotta know. And then you know, all my life, you know, as a Haitian American, even not having that much access to the language and getting that later, discovering that later, was like, people are always on that, oh, why are you so passionate when you talk? It's like, oh, you're talking too loud. And it's like, man, this is where we come from. You know, that's how we talk. So yeah, it's important to have the references, and thank you for that, for sure. The historical references are in the music, you can feel it, but there will also have to be some more literal, literal object to point at.
I just want to make a comment off of that, is that I appreciate the use of Creole, because you could have chosen to tell the story completely in English, you know, with the audiences that you have here, right? We're a mixed company. Some of us are Haitian, some of us not, and you know, I think that it's important to actually draw people in, because I think that will inspire curiosity, even if like someone here said like younger generations might not know much about Papa Doc, but hopefully, of course I agree, having multimedia, having images would help, but I think that it's also nice to be able to like present this in a way that would inspire a young person to be able to afterwards be able to play like, wow, I heard about this, I want to know more. You know, like I think art has that way of inspiring people. So rather than it being like, I'm just going to open up the book fully and tell you everything, it's like, well, this is how much I can tell you in an hour and a half performance, but hopefully you'll leave with this fire, like what the character had, her fire, like the younger folks or anybody will leave with the fire to understand and learn more. You know, even if it's just about learning about themselves, you know, in terms of how they relate to the themes here, because I think a lot of these themes, as much as I relate to them as a Haitian American person, and I think it's so specific to my experience growing up here, I think it's also something that transcends anybody that's first generation, that has this kind of kind of dual identity, if you will, or dual experience of being American and then your parents are from Italy, Ireland, Haiti, or wherever, you know. So yeah, I just appreciate hearing those bits of Creole. I was like, oh.
Okay, thank you.
Just wanted to give a comment, kind of like pretty much what she was just saying about like being from totally outside of the Asian culture and all the. I really appreciate that opportunity to like bring those questions about your heritage, and like that's something that I think is very strong in the play, and it's very well done, the storytelling. To kind of connect with, no matter where you're from, just kind of have those questions like, you know, this is something very familiar with, I think, pretty much everybody who has to like leave their country for something different, right? Especially for me, like coming from Venezuela, like I kind of had those connections with those moments of her, with Grace, kind of like having those questions, and I haven't had, you know, kids yet, but I know in some point they will have those questions themselves. And that's the power, I think, of this play, the potential that it has. To kind of like, no matter where you've come from, to kind of have that connection, those questions like, oh, you know, heritage, where I come from, like, what is that connection there? And I think that's very important and it's very good in this place. Something that I really appreciate a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you guys. I want to leave off by just saying that in me reading the play and seeing the play was super cinematic, which I don't feel like any plays are cinematic, like, to be honest and frank. But this one was super cinematic. It was super visceral, and I can't wait to see the finished product, even though it'll keep evolving. But like the portals and the fading into blackness, it was very like visceral for me. I could see it as a stage play, but also I saw it very, like a lot of people said, it was like cinematic almost. And I love the complications of home is more than one place. I loved everything about this play. So thank you all. Thank you all. Where you at? I'm trying to hide up there. Thank you all. Thank you, Cass. Thank you, Brew. Thank you, everyone, for coming. This is back there. I see her. There's Blake. Running to come in. Yes.
Thank you so much for your questions, and thank you for being here on your Wednesday, and thank you.
Travel safe, y'all.
Thank you.
Good night.